There will come a day when the world grows silent, when laughter feels distant, when the sky changes, when everything we loved, chased, and fought for will stand in front of us with no meaning. And on that day, only one question will matter. How did you live? Not how many followers you had, not how much money you made, not how many people praised you, but whether your heart remembered the one who created it. There comes a time in every person's life when they pause and ask, where is this world heading? You look around and see confusion becoming normal, immodesty becoming celebrated, arrogance becoming admirable, and truth being mocked. You see hearts chasing entertainment while neglecting prayer, souls drowning in distractions while starving spiritually. You see wars erupting, injustices spreading, and families breaking. And something inside whispers, this cannot continue forever. And that whisper is real. It is your soul recognizing the signs. The signs of the final day are not meant to terrify you. They are not stories of doom meant to paralyze you. They are reminders, gentle, patient, consistent reminders, calling your heart back home. When the prophet spoke about these signs, he did not tell them to a people who had lost hope. He told them to a people who were meant to build hope. He reminded them that this world is temporary, that pain will end, that injustice will not last, that every tear has a purpose, and every act of patience is seen. Yes, we see the signs around us today, not just in the world, but in ourselves. We see hearts becoming harder. We see worship becoming a burden. We see relationships losing sincerity. We see love becoming shallow and self-serving. The real signs are not only earthquakes, wars, and global disorder. The real signs are when we stop feeling the need for Allah, when we scroll for hours but cannot raise our hands to pray, when we remember everything but forget the one who gave us everything. That is the real alarm. But do not let this realization frighten you. Let it wake you. Because the final day does not come to destroy the believer. It comes to honor them. It comes to show that every silent sacrifice, every tear shed in prayer, every moment you resisted temptation, every time you forgave when you were hurt was not forgotten. The final day is not a loss for those who lived with sincerity. It is the day they finally get to see what they lived for. So return. Return before the world silences you. Return before your heart becomes numb. Return before regret becomes useless. Pray even if your heart feels heavy. Seek forgiveness even if your sins feel countless. Take one step, just one step. Allah meets you more than halfway. The signs are not there to scare you of the ending. They are there to remind you of a new beginning, a world where pain doesn't exist, where heartbreak heals, where loneliness is gone forever, where you are held, seen, and cherished by the one who created you. Prepare not with fear, prepare with love. Prepare with longing, prepare with hope, because what is coming is not the end for the believer. It is the return to the one we have been searching for all along. In every heart there is a quiet knowing that this world is temporary, that everything we see is a sign pointing to something beyond itself. And as we journey through life, the reminders of the final day are not meant to frighten us, but to awaken us from a sleep we hardly realize we are in. The final signs before Judgment Day are not simply dramatic future events. They are mirrors reflecting the spiritual state humanity sinks into as we move closer to the end of time. And one of the most striking aspects is that these signs are not distant anymore. They are unfolding gradually before our eyes, sometimes in ways subtle and sometimes in ways undeniable. We are told that one of the final signs will be the loss of trust, where people will betray each other and promises will become cheap. And when we look at our society today, we see relationships breaking without guilt, friendships ending without remorse, and family ties being cut for the smallest disagreements. And we realize that the foundation of trust has weakened so deeply that sincerity feels rare. Another sign is widespread deception, where truth becomes harder to recognize, where lies spread faster than light, where people begin to believe falsehood as truth simply because it is louder. And today we live in an age where information is overflowing, but wisdom is disappearing, where opinions replace knowledge, where emotion replaces evidence, and truth is often sacrificed for attention. We were told that modesty would fade, that shame would no longer exist. And today we see a society where people are praised for exposing what should be private, where dignity is traded for likes, where purity is mocked and decency is labeled old-fashioned. We were told that time would pass quickly, and we can feel it. Weeks feel like days, years feel like months. Childhood disappears fast, and we constantly feel like life is slipping through our fingers, yet we don't slow down to ask why. We were told that the righteous would be seen as strange, where those who hold on to faith will be treated as if they are holding fire, where people trying to live with honesty, patience, and humility are misunderstood by a world that values arrogance, indulgence, and self-centeredness. We were told that hearts would become hard, and this hardness is not seen in stone, but in how easily we walk past those who are suffering, how normal it has become to witness injustice without flinching, how often we scroll past tragedies as if they are just more content in a never-ending feed. And this emotional numbness is one of the clearest signs that the soul is starving. We were told that people would argue without knowledge, and today, every platform is filled with debates where no one seeks truth, only victory, where arguments are no longer about understanding, but about ego. We were told that wealth would become abundant yet empty, and we see a world where people have more than ever but feel less satisfied, where houses become bigger but hearts become smaller, where lifestyles grow while peace fades, because wealth without gratitude is only spiritual poverty disguised as success. And among the greatest signs is the rise of injustice, where oppression is normalized, where power is used not to protect, but to dominate, where the cries of the weak are drowned out by the noise of the powerful. And every act of injustice we witness is a reminder that a final justice is coming, a day when no terror will be ignored, no cruelty will be forgotten, no wound will remain unhealed. The signs of the end are not only external events, they are spiritual shifts within humanity. And the reason we are told about them is so that we wake up before the world sleeps forever. This is not a message of fear, but of responsibility. A reminder that every moment is a chance to return, that despite how dark things may seem, every heart can still find light, every soul can still realign, every person can still begin again. The final day is coming, not to destroy us, but to reveal what we built within ourselves. And the question is not when the world will end, who we are becoming as it moves closer to its end. So reflect deeply, soften your heart, return to your Creator, and live in a way that when that day arrives, your soul will be at peace, not because the world lasted, but because you prepared for the world that lasts forever. The discussion of the final signs before the day of judgment is not meant to inspire fear rooted in hopelessness, but rather awareness rooted in awakening. Because one of the greatest tragedies of human existence is to walk through life asleep to the reality of why we are here. When we study the final signs, we see that they are not simply dramatic events waiting in the distant future. They are indicators reflected in the moral, emotional, and spiritual condition of humanity today. We were told that trust would fade, and now we live in a world where promises are broken casually, where loyalty is treated as disposable, where betrayal has become normalized to the point that people expect disappointment before sincerity. We were told that modesty would dissolve, and we witness a generation taught to value validation over dignity, where the self-worth of individuals rises and falls with the approval of strangers, where sharing the most intimate parts of life has become entertainment, and where the concept of guarding the heart is hardly understood. We were told that time would pass rapidly, and indeed we feel like days collapse into each other. Memories rush past us without pause, and the sense of presence is fading as life becomes a race from one distraction to another. Another sign is the spread of ignorance despite access to endless information, and today knowledge is confused with opinion, impulsiveness is confused with confidence, and wisdom is overshadowed by ego. We were told that hearts would harden, and this is perhaps the most painful sign to witness, because when the heart becomes hardened, compassion becomes weak, empathy becomes rare, and the suffering of others becomes invisible, as if humanity has begun losing the very essence that makes us human. The final signs are not only warnings about external worlds changing, they are an invitation to examine the internal worlds within us. The final day is not simply about the destruction of the physical world, but the unveiling of truth, where every hidden intention, every quiet struggle, every unseen act of goodness, and every ignored opportunity for kindness is brought into full clarity. We were told that wealth would increase while contentment would decrease, and today people chase careers, achievements, and possessions, yet still feel empty, because the soul does not feed on material success, it feeds on meaning, purpose, and remembrance. We were told that injustice would spread, and we see it everywhere, from the smallest household conflict to the largest global oppression, where power is used to dominate rather than protect, where vulnerability is exploited instead of valued. Each act of injustice we witness or commit is a reminder that ultimate justice is coming, and that no cruelty, no wound, and no silent tear is ever forgotten. We were told that faith would feel heavier, like holding on to burning coal, and this is the condition many feel today, where remaining honest feels lonely, where choosing modesty feels mocked, where choosing patience feels outdated, and where choosing compassion feels exhausting in a world that rewards selfishness. Yet even with these signs, the message is not one of despair, but of hope, because the very reason these signs were given is to awaken the soul before it becomes too numb to return. The final signs remind us to soften the heart, to purify the intention, to seek meaning beyond the surface, to live gently, to love sincerely, to forgive before regret comes too late, and to turn back to the one who never turns away. The final hour is not a distant myth. It is a reality we move closer to with every breath. Those who awaken now will not meet it with fear. They will meet it with peace, because they prepared not for a temporary world, but for the world that never ends. When we speak about the final signs before the end of time, we are not simply discussing future events that exist far away from our current reality. We are speaking about a mirror placed in front of our souls today. The signs were given to awaken us before our hearts become numb, before our lives slip away in distraction, and before our priorities become completely reversed. One of the most striking signs given was that people would begin to chase the world more than their own souls, that entertainment would become more meaningful than prayer, that reputation would matter more than character, and that people would value being seen more than being sincere. We were told that humility would fade, that ego would rise, that arguments would become more important than truth, and that knowledge would be used for recognition rather than transformation. We see a generation that is quick to speak but slow to reflect, eager to win but hesitant to apologize, passionate about expressing themselves yet distant from expressing gratitude to the one who created them. Another sign mentioned was that love would become conditional and relationships would be built on convenience rather than loyalty. This is visible in friendships, marriages, and even family ties, where the moment something becomes difficult, many choose to leave rather than repair. These are not merely global signs, they are signs within us, urging the soul to return to sincerity before sincerity becomes difficult to find. Another powerful sign that has become evident is the loss of accountability. The world has become a place where actions are justified by trends, where morality is shaped by popularity, and where truth is often dismissed simply because it is uncomfortable. We were told that deception would spread, and today we see how appearances overshadow reality. People craft images of their lives that hide their emptiness, and society celebrates the illusion more than the truth. We were warned that those who hold on to faith would feel isolated, like holding on to burning coal, and today those who choose modesty, honesty, patience, and purity often feel like they are swimming against the current of the entire world. But this difficulty is not a punishment. It is a sign of honor. It is a sign that the path to truth has always required courage. The signs of the end are reminders that the world is temporary, that every joy here will fade, that every pain will pass, and that every injustice will one day be brought before the one who sees everything. The existence of these signs is not to break the heart, but to strengthen it, to remind us that real peace does not come from the world, but from the one who created it. The more we see these signs unfolding, the more urgently we are being called to step back from distractions, to reflect deeply, and to remember why we were created in the first place. The final signs tell us not to fear the end, but to fear meeting the end unprepared, because the true fear is not the day when the mountains crumble or the skies split. It is the day when the soul realizes it invested everything into a life that was always temporary. The day of judgment is not simply the destruction of the world, it is the unveiling of truth. On that day, every hidden act of kindness will shine brightly, every moment of patience will be rewarded, every tear shed in silence will be honored, and every sacrifice made for the sake of goodness will become a source of joy. And on that same day, every act of cruelty, arrogance, and selfishness will stand exposed. The signs remind us that we still have time, that the doors of return are still open, that the heart can still soften, and that the soul can still awaken. The final signs are not meant to create despair. They are a gift, a warning rooted in mercy, reminding us to shift our focus from temporary pleasures to eternal purpose. They remind us to build our character, to strengthen our faith, to heal our relationships, to forgive sincerely, to love gently, and to strive quietly for what is pure. Because when the final moment comes, every soul will realize that The only thing that ever mattered was the state of the heart when it met its creator. One of the greatest reminders found within the final signs is that the world was never meant to be a permanent home, yet many people cling to it as if they will never leave. The heart becomes heavy when it tries to attach itself to something temporary, and this is why so many people feel restless even when they have everything the world praises. The signs of the final hour are meant to wake the heart before attachment blinds it completely. We were told that there would come a time when wealth would be plentiful, but satisfaction would be scarce, where people would have comfort yet feel empty, where entertainment would increase but joy would decrease. We see this unfolding as more people search for meaning in material things, seeking validation through status, appearance, and digital admiration. The signs remind us that true contentment comes not from possessing more, but from purifying the heart and remembering the one who created and sustains everything. The final hour is not just a future moment, it is reflected in the choices we make every day. Every time the heart chooses sincerity over showing off, patience over anger, forgiveness over pride, and remembrance over distraction, it is preparing for a meeting that every soul must experience. This awareness is not meant to bring fear, but clarity, guiding us to align our daily lives with the purpose we were created for. Another sign that speaks loudly today is the breakdown of moral boundaries. The world has reached a point where right and wrong are often defined by feelings rather than truth. People choose what benefits them momentarily rather than what nourishes their soul eternally. When values shift from divine guidance to personal desire, the heart becomes lost. We were told that modesty would disappear, that temptations would be widespread, and that people would defend sin more fiercely than they defend virtue. But the presence of these signs is not a sign of hopelessness. Rather, it is a reminder that guidance is more precious than ever. The one who holds on to their faith today, who practices modesty, who guards their heart, who speaks gently, who seeks purity, and who strives to remain connected to their Creator is among the strongest, because it is much easier to follow the crowd than to stand firm in truth. The signs teach us to be careful not just of external corruption, but internal corruption, arrogance, jealousy, greed, cynicism, and heedlessness. These internal signs are often more dangerous than physical or political ones because they quietly darken the heart without being seen. The final hour reminders call us to examine our inner world before our outer world collapses. Another powerful sign that has manifested is the confusion of identity. Many people no longer know who they are or what they stand for because they measure themselves through the eyes of others. The world has turned self-image into a performance where people are more focused on being admired than being sincere. The signs foretold that people would take pride in superficial things while neglecting the condition of their hearts. We see this clearly in how value is now measured by appearance, popularity, and lifestyle rather than character, humility, wisdom, and kindness. The final signs call the heart to return to authenticity. They teach that the true self is not found in comparison, but in reflection, not in being seen, but in being connected to the one who sees everything. The end times are not just about the collapse of physical structures, but the collapse of spiritual consciousness. When a person forgets their Creator, they forget their own purpose. When they remember their Creator, they return to their truth. The signs remind us to rebuild the heart with sincerity, prayer, compassion, gratitude, and patience before the soul is called to return to the one who gave it. The final signs are not a message of doom. They are a message of awakening. They remind us that life is short, fragile, and sacred. They remind us that every moment we breathe is a chance to return, to soften our hearts, to strengthen our faith, and to repair what has been broken. They remind us that the value of this world is temporary, but the value of the soul is eternal. The signs call us to treat each day as a gift and each act of goodness as a seed that will bloom in the hereafter. They encourage us to be gentle with others, to forgive often, to speak with kindness, to seek wisdom, to live with humility, and to love in a way that brings us closer to our Creator rather than closer to our ego. The final hour will come for the world one day, but our personal final hour may arrive much sooner. And when it does, the only thing that will matter is the state of the heart and the deeds it carried. These signs are not warnings of destruction, they are invitations to transformation. They call us to wake up, to return, to reflect, and to live with purpose before time runs out.